Every 4 years, Bitcoin does something strange. It cuts itself in half. Not the price, but the new supply that gets issued every 10 minutes. And every single time, that has set off a bull run that made history. But here's the thing. This next halving isn't happening in a vacuum. It's lining up with the biggest flood of global liquidity we've ever seen. And that's why this cycle might not just be another boom in the traditional 4-year cycles. It could be the first, dare I say it, supercycle. And with that intro, welcome into Bitcoin Ratchy, the channel where we don't just hodl, we explain it like you're 5. And maybe like you're 45 too, I really don't discriminate. Let me break this down so simply that even a kindergartner could get it, and then zoom out to why this time could change Bitcoin forever. Alright, first, let's talk about the halvings themselves and give an example of how they actually work. Imagine you've got a magical candy machine. Every day it spits out 100 candies. Everyone loves these candies. But here's the twist. Every 4 years, the machine cuts its production in half. So after 4 years, only 50 candies come out. 4 years later, just 25, then 12, and so on. Now, if everyone wants these candies, but fewer and fewer are being made, what happens to the value of each one? Well, it's obviously going to go up. That's Bitcoin. Every 210,000 blocks, about every 4 years, the new supply of Bitcoin is cut in half. It's programmed into the code. No politician, no central banker, no one can change it. And here's the crazy part. Every single time Bitcoin has halved, the price has gone wild. In 2012, Bitcoin went from around $12 to over $1,000 within 1 year. In 2016, Bitcoin was about $650 at the halving, and 18 months later, it touched $20,000. Then came 2020. Bitcoin was about $8,500 at the halving, and less than 2 years later, it smashed $69,000. The halving doesn't instantly moon the price though, but it does light the fuse for the next run. Now here's the key point. The halving only changes the supply. It makes new Bitcoin scarcer. What it doesn't explain is why demand surges at the exact same time in the previous cycles. That's the missing piece that most people overlook. To understand why Bitcoin didn't just trickle higher but absolutely exploded, we need to talk about global liquidity. Think of the world's financial system as a giant faucet. When central banks turn it on, money floods into the markets. Stocks, houses, gold, and yes, even Bitcoin. When they shut it off, everything dries up. So let's take a look back at previous cycles. With the 2013 boom, global central banks were still easing after 2008. The 2017 boom, QE was still pumping. Cheap money was everywhere. The 2020 to 2021 boom, pandemic stimulus. Literally trillions of dollars were printed globally. So it wasn't just halvings. It was halvings plus liquidity. And when the two lined up, Bitcoin went vertical. Now here's why this cycle is setting up like no other. First, the halving from 2024 cut Bitcoin's daily supply in half from around 900 Bitcoin per day to about 450. That's just like chopping the candy machine again, but demand has never been higher. Second, the liquidity faucet is starting to turn back on. The Fed is signaling easing, Japan is printing, China is stimulating, global liquidity is flowing again. Third, the buyers aren't just retail anymore. We've got BlackRock, Fidelity, and ETFs vacuuming up supply. Nation states are stacking. Corporations are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. So for the first time, Bitcoin's hardest supply shock is colliding with the demand shock on steroids. Now in the past, Bitcoin followed a rhythm. Halving, bull run, blow off top, 80% crash, long crypto winter, then repeat. But what happens if this time demand doesn't go away? What happens if trillions of dollars from institutions, governments, and endless money printing keep flowing in? That's the idea of the supercycle. Instead of a brutal crash after the peak, Bitcoin could enter a stair-step march higher, pausing, consolidating for 3 to 6 months at a time, but ultimately grinding up as the world realizes there's no good alternative. Now, let's be real, nothing's guaranteed, markets don't move in straight lines, but if there was ever a setup for Bitcoin to break its old 4-year rhythm, this is it. So here's the big takeaway. Halvings explain the supply shock, liquidity explains the demand shock, and when the two line up, Bitcoin doesn't just rise, it explodes. This next halving could be the fuse for the first Bitcoin supercycle. The only question is, are you stacking before the clock hits zero? Now, if you want more simple but deep dives on Bitcoin, smash that subscribe button. Because here on Bitcoin Ratchi, we don't just watch the cycles, we front run them. Ratchi out.